Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back. Where we took a short little recess, as you know, we stated in the beginning with Eat, Learn, and Grow that we are um, where our intentions is to provide a space for all of us to connect and grow during this time of social distancing. And you are welcome back to episode 15, where we're going to talk about making the right fit for your child during COVID-19 when it comes to schooling. And this episode is brought by Tinhorn. Gamu. My name is April Tinhorn, and I'm Hualapai, Navajo, and Chinese. For almost a decade, I've owned Tinhorn Consulting, where we're all about igniting Indigenous connections. And the mission of bettering our tribal communities has not changed, not even during these times of metamorphosis. So we thank you for your continued support of Tinhorn. One of the ways that we've transitioned during this time of physical distancing is that we've transitioned our connecting, marketing, and training services to an online platform. And we also gave birth to Eat, Learn, and Grow. So we would have a space for all of us, to connect. And it's so essential to us as people. People are meant to connect, and it's all about our well-being. And so that's been the give back for Tinhorn. A little bit of background information on the topic for today. So probably my story is I'm a parent of an incoming third grader, and I've never given much thought, honestly, to her education before. Like her father and myself, we attended public school on the res, Peach Springs Union School District number 8. Shout out to Go Tigers. So we're products of the public school system, and up until the pandemic hit, was right before our daughter's spring break. That's when everything just stopped, right? And all of a sudden, everything changed, and I had to give pause, and I had to start thinking about her education, because there's so many different issues that are going on right now. A lot of balancing acts I feel that we as parents are going through as we look at the education for our kids. First and foremost, their safety, the physical safety, and then you take a bigger holistic view and you think about their well-being besides just their health, and then you think about their educational growth. And on top of all of that, there's many different ways of schooling that are available now that, like, I know I've never heard of, never even thought about it. I just kind of thought it was you either go into school or you stay home, and never thought about what the details of staying home looked like. And so it's been my nature that's helped me out incredibly throughout life has been to, one, acknowledge I don't know what I don't know, and two, to go out and find those people who do know and who have experience. And that's what we're doing here. And I want to thank greatly our two panelists today, who will be sharing their educational journeys for their children. And we're going to start out first with Vicki. She's going to be talking. She's also the Arizona Surprise Mom blogger, and she's going to really be talking about what are the different types of schooling options out there. And then she's going to also share the pros and cons of each of them, so that we can, if you're a parent like me who has no idea of what all the different options are, at least we're building our foundation, right? So we can have some stability, we can make informed decisions. And she'll also share her family story of how they've come to be where they're at now and where they are going forward with their children. And then from there, we're going to transition to Amy, and she's Akimel O'odham in Wasco, and she's a mother of an elementary school age daughter, and she's going to be sharing their journey of what schooling choices they've made in the past that fit for their family, and what they're doing moving forward as well. For those of you familiar with our format here, we like to leave plenty of time for discussion, because I know I'm not the only one who's thinking, what am I going to do when it comes to schooling for my child? And I want to leave as much time as we can for that discussion amongst our, not only our panelists, but amongst you as well. So with that, Vicki, I'm going to turn over the virtual Zoom mic to you. And can you please share your story?
All right, thank you so much. I'm gonna try to share my screen so you don't just see my beautiful face behind my microphone. Here I am. Let's see, presentation mode, and hopefully you can see that. Do you guys see my family in background? Okay, perfect. So excellent. It's the first time I've done this. So, woohoo! I have actually done it without my husband's help. So, so this is my family and my background. That's my husband, and he's an Army veteran. And my 3 kids, I have like little names for my kids because I run a blog called Surprise AZ Mom, and we've been recognized different places. So I have little names for them. So it just kind of keeps them safe. We have Munchie, he's my oldest, he's 10. Giggles is my daughter, and she's 8. And Dimples is almost 7. And people have asked, is that their real names? And it's not. They're just their little names. We're originally from Connecticut, and I graduated with a bachelor's in psychology and a minor in elementary education and communication. I've worked with the juvenile court. I was a store manager at Target, and a mom, and I was a wife of veteran. So my husband's a veteran, and my dad was actually a veteran too. So I never thought I would homeschool my kids. My oldest went to a preschool in Connecticut. And then he went to a preschool here, and I saw what he was doing here, and I just said, I could be doing that. I'm paying a lot of money. He wasn't really having a great time at his preschool, and I saw a lot of moms at a park one day, and I kind of looked at them, and I started asking questions about what homeschool life was like. And so I said to my husband, can I try it? And he said, yeah, I think we could try it. Like, give it a whirl. You know, you have the background. You already have the little kids at home. Why not give it a try? So we did, and we really, really liked it. We liked the community. We liked meeting new people. It worked with our lifestyle. My husband, now he owns his own business. I'm actually sitting in his office. So we get to travel when we want. We're not stuck to the school schedule to travel. And we've actually been able to go to some really cool places. And it hasn't been tied to having that rigid school schedule. And then in September of 2018, I unfortunately got a brain infection, and I ended up in the hospital in a coma. And at that point, I was in there for 2 weeks, and my husband had to enroll the kids in public school. I was unable to really speak. I was not able to move the right side of my body. It was almost as if I had a stroke, and I ended up with epilepsy. So at that point, we had to put our homeschooling on pause. My husband couldn't take care of his business and homeschool the kids, and I could barely stay awake during the day, let alone take care of the kids. So we put the kids in school, and then we had to just kind of work through all of that. Luckily, I got better. Obviously, I'm able to be here with you today. When I first got out of the hospital, I couldn't even form a full sentence without blubbering over myself. I couldn't read a book to my kids. It was very, very difficult for me. But now I'm better. And then luckily, I was just able to recover with a lot of help. So when COVID-19 happened, we were planning on taking the kids out of school at the end of the year, but COVID COVID-19 happened in March, we decided that instead of the kids doing the online school, I just took them out and I went back to homeschooling them my way. So there's a difference between the homeschooling and schooling at home. So when COVID-19 hit, if you were doing the school online that the kids ended up with, like they gave you the computers or the packets that the schools brought you home, or if you ended up going to homeschooling, which is what I did before, there's a difference. So there's an Arizona statute. So the Arizona statute with homeschooling is a non-public school conducted primarily by the parent, guardian, or other person who has custody of the children, or non-public instruction provided in the child's home. And you need to sign the affidavit of intent to homeschool. And that is a one-page form. It's really simple. You get your kid's child birth certificate and you bring it into the county and they just stamp it. You only have to do it one time during the child's school life, and then you're done. It's really, really simple. You don't have to show anyone else any of the stuff that you do. And Arizona has very, very easy homeschool laws, unlike other states where you have to show everything that you do. Arizona, it's like, you want to homeschool your kid? You send in this paper, you're done. Other states, you have to have yearly checks, sometimes monthly checks. Arizona, you say you want to homeschool your kids? Okay, that's awesome. Send in this paper or bring it in and you're done. Schooling at home is public schooling and charters at home, and you still use public funds. And there's no need to sign the affidavit. So the benefits of public school online: everyone in your district is accepted. They are mandated to give you what you need. So if you need a Chromebook to do that, they'll give that to you. They will give you packets of paper if you need that. There's no cost other than your taxes. Transitioning back to your school will most likely be pretty seamless. So if you decide that the schooling online is going to work for you and you want to go back to your school when they allow you back in school, that's probably going to be the best bet for you. So if you say when schools are reopened in person, this is probably going to be the easiest transition to do public school online and back into the public school. And schoolwork is set and picked out for the students. So parents do not have to pick out anything for the students. The teachers do all of that. The benefit of a charter school: online charters have their own systems. Usually they're proprietary. So proprietary meaning they have their own systems that they have created. Sometimes they have set them up themselves. They own them. Where the public schools were using Schoology, and that was a national system. Some of the online charter schools have created their own private systems themselves. A lot of them, the charter schools, have done online before, so they know how to do online. They've been doing it for 10 years or more. The schoolwork is set and picked out for the students, so the parents don't have to do that. There's no need to do the affidavit of homeschooling. Taxes pay for the charter, but I have 2 stars next to that because a lot of the charters do require extra funds for the parents for extras. So sometimes art isn't included, and sometimes you need extra money for specials. So not everything is always included. Online charter schools usually have a way for parents and students to connect virtually. They usually have a streamlined process to connect with parents too. That's something different than the public online schools have because they've already been doing the online for a couple years. So they have online systems for kids to connect. So that's a benefit of the online charter schools. Online accreditation for charter and private schools. This is really important if you have a high schooler. So if you have a high schooler and they want to go to college, you need to check to see if they are accredited. Because if they are not accredited, you might be going to a school that they can't get their high school diploma. So I have here a place to check to see if they're accredited. So if you have a high schooler, make sure they're accredited. You can go to the Arizona website of, you can go to these two websites that are listed. I'm not going to read them out. And Advanced ED is one accreditation. So you want to make sure that they're accredited. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this webinar and I'm talking to so many people, because I'm afraid that there's going to be a lot of fly-by-night, if you would say, charter schools that are going to pop up online that are just going to say, hey, we're online charter school, but then they're not going to be accredited. And you can go and spend all your time and possibly money and not get an actual degree. So
Vicki,
super important.
Vicki, thank you so much for pointing that out. And I would just like to let everyone listening that we will, Lisa will definitely send out these two links afterwards, so that if you you're looking at high school online, that you're able to look at this and make sure that it's going to count. It's accredited.
Yes.
So thank you, Vicki.
You're welcome. So this is one of the things I was like, oh, this is so important. It's so important. So, benefits of private school: generally smaller classes, higher academic standards. Parents can petition for things to be changed, like the curriculum, where you're not going to have that in a public school because they have set standards set by the federal government and the state government. That does not happen in the private schools. Private schools usually have a little bit more leeway. There's a strong sense of community. Scholarships can be available. More funds are available because a lot of the alumni donate. And you also want to check on the accreditation of the school. So going back to the last slide, you want to make sure that those are accredited. So I am flying through this. So benefit of homeschooling. Now this is specific to Arizona. There's no need to take attendance in Arizona. If you want to have a day where you don't do anything, hey, it's up to you. We love those days sometimes. You can pick the curriculum and the days that you want to do homeschooling. So you really get to pick whatever you feel is the best for your child. There is no strict regulations in Arizona to what you have to do other than teaching your kids English, reading, writing. But they don't say you have to teach this, this, and this. It's very loose. It's not very rigid at all in Arizona because there's no checks to see what you are doing with your child in Arizona. You can school year round or not. Like this is my favorite time to school in Arizona because it's so hot. Like going outside right now is not my favorite thing, but in the winter, I want to be outside with my kids. So we switch the year around. So the drawbacks of public school online. It's not on your schedule. So a lot of the schools are saying that you have to be there during the regular school hours. And that could be a very big problem for working parents. Tech crashes can keep students from learning. Last year, they were using, like I was saying, they were using systems that the whole United States were using, like Schoology. And so everyone in the United States was using that. And the systems were not ready for so many people to be on that tech at the same time. They have to do state testing. So I don't know how that's going to look this year. So that's kind of crazy. Zoom classes can become overwhelming and noisy.
Yes, that definitely happened with my daughters because kids don't know how to use the mute or and maybe multiple kids in the same household on different Zoom calls. So
yeah, and then you have bandwidth issues too at the same time.
We're not even talking about the reservations. You know, some of us don't even have bandwidth, internet. So
Yes, yes, that's a huge issue too. There is school choice in Arizona, but I'm not sure if that is restricted with COVID right now. And there is 230 school districts in Arizona, and you can see what yours is by this map that I have, and you can, that has to do with the open choice in Arizona. But I put that under drawbacks because I don't know if that is going to be restricted with COVID, if you can even apply to another school district right now. Then the drawbacks of charter schools. You have to apply. Are they online only, or are they regular in person? You also have time frames to do your work. Not all teachers are certified in charter schools.
really?
They still have to, no, they are not.
Okay.
You still have to do state testing, and they may have additional fees. So full day kindergarten, they don't necessarily have to have full day kindergarten. There's extra additional fees for sometimes gym classes. So you have to watch the additional fees. The drawbacks of homeschooling. You need to fill out the affidavit and send it in with birth certificate to your county education office. There's no tax deduction. So you pay for all of the supplies of education. So you don't get your tax money back for not sending your kid in. You are responsible for coming up with your entire plan for educating your child. In high school, you need to make sure that they have enough of the right courses to get a high school diploma. And you need to keep a record of this to go to college. You have to create the transcript. So there's a lot of places that you can look to find a downloadable transcript. And I say you should keep that on a computer that has like Dropbox, so that if your computer gets fried, you have it in the cloud. You don't keep it on a piece of paper or in a notebook that can get spilled on or, you know, caught in a fire. So I think you should have it backed up, because that is a really, really important document that you don't want to lose. HSLDA.org, that's the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, has all the information for which states have all their laws. And there are stipend programs to help you pay for homeschooling, but you have to be careful with the legal ramifications of that. So, drawbacks of private schools. I'm pretty sure cost is probably what everyone thinks of when they think of a private school. Availability, they're hard to find. They're not always nearby. The staff is not always certified. Usually they are not. Online options are not always available. They might not have special education programs. Limited sports or extracurriculars, and usually there's no tax break for enrolling your child in a private school. So, how are you feeling so far? So,
do we have any parents on the call or on Facebook that you are residing on a reservation right now?
Hey, Pearl, it's me, Asia. So I'm on the reservation, and I do understand like the whole Broadway, because I work from home too. So when my son did have to take online classes at his charter school, it was difficult being on that broadband. And then also we had, our electricity isn't really reliable. So there was one day where we did not have electricity for 6 hours. So that's kind of like, I think, an issue for on reservation students. However, I did enroll my son into an online program. I'm in the state of New Mexico, so our laws are a little different, as our guest speaker is talking about. And that was one thing, but when I had contacted this school, is that going to be an issue? And they are more than willing to kind of help with the situation with COVID on reservations, given the fact that most of the reservations don't have broad width, so they are willing to work with us on that. So I think that's one good thing. But yeah, it's just the broad width in some areas, it's not as reliable. And I know they're trying to get to the chapter houses to have that, but I know like there's some restrictions on that as well.
Yeah. They're supposed to have, they've been saying that they're going to put it in some schools and some libraries, but on some of the reservations. But then you still have the issue with getting people to those places, because I know some people don't have transportation necessarily. And I feel like some of the lawmakers, if I'm being quite blunt, are not thinking about the people who actually live in some of the areas. And then they're saying, oh, we'll have packets available, but the packets still aren't the same as a classroom setting, and so it's not the full educational experience that the kids are used to getting.
And I was asking about reservation-based school kids because Vicki, and I guess it's here on your slide, I remember you saying that there's some financial educational dollars, right, available if you are reservation-based?
Yes, yeah. So this is the ESA, the Empowerment Scholarship account program. So this is for Arizona. Other states do have similar programs. Not every single state. There's 35 states who participate in a similar program, but they're not all called the same. So you have to do a little bit of digging for this. And this is it. If you opt out of the public school, applicants can seek alternative services such as private schools, home-based education, tutoring, or therapies using state funds. There are a lot of requirements, and it's more stringent than regular homeschooling. And this has all of who is eligible on here. And then there's a link to the requirements. And so, yes, a student resides within the Native American reservation. I don't know if New Mexico is one of the states that has it, but it's definitely something to look up. And if you look at the New Mexico education.gov, you probably could find out if they have a scholarship program similar.
Sharing that, Vicki.
Yeah. So the other thing is, if your child has an IEP, which is an individual education plan, a lot of people have been contacting me about that. Your child still has rights with that, and you're still, unfortunately, really have to push forward with making sure your child is getting all the services that they are entitled to. So I have a couple links for Arizona, how to find that, the special education guidance. And one of my readers said, the last update was, I think, the 10th of July. So you'll have to be on top of that because they're constantly updating it. And then nationwide, there's the family equality. But talking to your teachers is probably your first step to getting there, but knowing your rights to make sure that you're getting the services, because of course everyone is kind of in a frenzy right now and how to get those services to the children. There's also great autism networks across the country. So if your child is autistic, there's one in the Phoenix area, and they are just above and beyond willing to help other families and let them know what things are available. So if your child does fit into the spectrum, reach out to those people because they can help connect you with other families and what services are available. So that's another thing to do. Now on to homeschooling. I don't know, how am I doing on time?
You probably have like another 5 minutes or so.
Oh, okay, well, I mean, if people have questions, I can do that, or what would you like me to do?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Does anyone have any questions so far with what Vicki has shared with us? I know for myself, this is all brand new, so yeah. I appreciate that. I never really thought about even exploring these options, and so to see already if things I think about to factor in is how much control do I want to have in my daughter's curriculum, especially being, Wallapai and Navajo and Chinese, and wanting to have the full, giving her historical and living, history of our people. I think about that, like, so some of these options definitely could include that, right? Because we have more flexibility in curriculum. And then also, like you talked about, being the flexibility of when and where learning occurs really appeals to me as well. But then the trade-offs, like I keep thinking, I'm not a teacher, and for anything that's not having a teacher or curriculum created, then I see that the onus is on me, or to get resources to create the curriculum and to also be with her. So anyone else, would you like to ask questions? Michelle, I see. Oh, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, Michelle.
Hello, everyone. So I had a question about, like, is it possible to sign children up to participate in a school outside of your own state? Like, is that a possibility? Anyone?
Unless it's a charter school, then no, not really. Unless you have like a parent who resides in another state. I mean, that would probably be the only reason. Is there a reason why you would want to have a child in another state?
I'm going to be researching like different programs. Well, I don't even know if it exists, but it would be so awesome if there were like a native charter school, like maybe a state is like thriving with, educators and students, and, switching it to a virtual platform. Like, I want to see if that's even a possibility. But I might just be dreaming.
There's the Native American, is it Community Academy, or I know it's NACA out of Albuquerque, and it's, as far as I know about it, but I don't know about the delivery methods nor the eligibility requirements. And I want to say, isn't there like a school in Oregon as well that's similar? And it's interesting you should bring that up, Michelle, because some other Indigenous parents here in the Phoenix area, we've actually been talking about that prior to COVID, but I think it's like New Year's Eve or something, and we were talking about what would it take to create our own like Indigenous academy. Oh, you just muted yourself. You're muted. Okay, and you're
okay. Sorry, I kept hitting it. Yeah, I don't know if, like, because of COVID, if that's something that people are working on, but I just didn't know if it complicates things state to state if I were to sign my child up. But I guess I can just wait and see and kind of look at the places you suggested, April.
And if anyone else on the call knows more detail, that would be great. I know one of the co-founders.
Yeah, there's not all of the charter schools that are in Arizona, or that are licensed in Arizona, are in Arizona. So you're fine with that as long as it's certified to work in Arizona. So, that's fine. You can just see it, and the only thing you really have to worry about is if it's it's high school, really, honestly. High school is like the biggest issue, honestly, to really, really worry about. So that's your really biggest issue. So, but you should check on the AZ government site to see, but not most of the charter schools aren't all in Arizona. So, it can be out of Arizona.
Hi, April. This is Nicole, and I'm in Albuquerque. But and thank you for this. We're kind of grappling with this, and I guess just as a point about NACA. I mean, we're interested in the same thing, and we're along the same lines. Like, it'd be great if, like, say, the Navajo Nation Department or Board of Education had an online curriculum that, we could, any distance learning that off-reservation families could utilize, or even on reservation. But as far as NACA, here, the state public education department requires that all the schools come up with a hybrid plan. So some in-class curriculum and some online learning. And so I believe NACA falls under that. So I think we're all seeing what they're going to do, because the school district, the local school district, just approved their hybrid plan, but it really lacks feasibility for the in-class instruction portion and keeping kids safe. So yeah, I haven't seen anything on NACA's website, but yeah, it'd be great to know how they were going to accomplish their instruction. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that local perspective, Nicole. Appreciate it. And I believe Lisa?
Yeah, so I am looking at Facebook, and there is a comment from Stanford. He actually has a question on how successful or how homeschooling is working well through Indian country. And I don't know if anybody on the call has an answer to that.
I think it depends on you know, where you are in Indian country. I don't have the statistics on it, but there are a ton of research on homeschooling. So I'm sure he can look that up. So there's a lot of there's tons and tons of research on homeschooling. I don't know the statistics on it off the top of my head, unfortunately. So I can't answer that with a good educational piece to it. So I can't do that.
Okay, Amy, I know you're homeschooling your child now, so and I saw you
Yeah.
unmute yourself.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, Vicki comes with a perspective of, you know, staying within this formal education. You know, we all grew up. I've gone to graduate school, university, pre-K all the way through university, like without any kind of break. And so I'm very ingrained in American's educational system, just how I grew up. So naturally, when I had my daughter, I was like, okay, age 5, she's going to kindergarten, age, you know, going on and on. But early on, you know, my daughter was diagnosed with severe food allergies. So we had to really take that into consideration. And people homeschool for many different reasons, whether it's just, you know, they're not seeing the benefits of public school. I know when I went to public school, it was more of like, they're not teaching us Native history was a big thing. Like, you know, growing up off the reservation in urban areas. And I'm just like, I'm right in our, you know, home territory, and my, you know, the O'odham people weren't even mentioned in the classroom at all.
Yep.
So it was like very, I kind of saw it as an opportunity as we're learning about my daughter's health issues, health concerns. I was also building this anxiety of like, my daughter's going to be behind, my daughter's not going to learn, she's not going to be, you know, socialized, she's not, I had all these fears. And I'm sure a lot of you are feeling that now about like pulling your kids out of that traditional schooling. And
yes,
I do have to say, like, we went and I did the affidavit, and Vicki, you've told me so much more that was not told to me when I went to the county to sign the affidavit for my daughter to homeschool, because we did not feel safe. We did not find one school. So my daughter is severely life-threatening allergic to dairy. And so all schools across the board their main protein is dairy. And so me and her father, we were like, we're not gonna make a teacher or any cafeteria worker responsible for her life while they're having to watch all these other kids. Like, it's just not feasible. And so we went about it a different route. Like, even when she was 5, I'm like, she should be learning, she should be knowing this, she should be knowing that. And her dad was like the driving force of like, stop putting so much pressure on yourself, like, just because that's how we learn.
yes.
Because his experience was that his mom grew up on a ranch in Mexico, with no education at all. And she didn't learn to read till she was 14. And I remember him repeating that to me all the time. She didn't learn till she was 13. She didn't learn. And I'm just like, but that doesn't, we're in the modern world. Like, how does that even fit? Like, and I'm like, okay, education over here, it's so important to me. My grandma's the only thing I ever was told to do is get my education. And here's my daughter. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, so long story short, I did research. I did homeschool research. Like when I went to the county to fill out the affidavit, she said, here's a packet of resources. You can do the curriculum, you cannot do the curriculum. If she wants to, the only time it comes into play is when she wants to graduate high school. She has to come do a high school test to graduate. And that's it. You're on your own. And so I was like, what? And then of course the packet was not even that thick. It was like literally centimeters thick. Yeah, it had no resources. I'm just like, none of this even looks good. Like Phoenix area, like there's some, I don't know if you know it, Vicki, it's like Christian bookstore, and they take donations from schools of textbooks and things like that for homeschoolers.
Covenant Homeschool Resource Center.
Yeah, and then I'm just like, okay, oddly enough, I lived down the street from there at the time and I didn't know, but so it's just this like mentality of what is it my daughter should be learning at this age? And if you think about it, it's like society created that, right? And what we were taught to learn, say at our own children's age, is not what they're expected to learn now. Like kindergartners are expected to do like multiplication and read books, and I'm just like, wait, what happened to like Mary Had a Little Lamb and stuff? Like, I don't understand. So
and maps,
yeah, and maps, right? So it's just kind of like, everybody take a deep breath, like we're all pulling our skids, and this is like an opportunity for us to as Native people, like what are the learning lessons? My daughter's dad decided we're not going to do a curriculum. He was going through a lot of mental health issues. I had to work to provide for the family. So I was exhausted most of the time. And I'm just like, well, how is she going to be educated? How is she going to function in the world? And then it kind of makes you think like, well, everything I learned in 5th grade, am I using that now daily? Everything I learned in high school, am I learning that daily? Everything I paid thousands of dollars for in university, am I using that daily? And it's like a lot of the answers were no. And where I got most of my education and everything was living real life. And so I ran into homeschool blogs and Facebook things, and it was some moms, a homeschool moms group, I think out of East Valley, that they're just like, people were asking this, what education, what curriculum do you follow? And a lot of them were just like, we don't. We take our children and make everything we do a learning lesson. You unload the groceries. How many apples did you get? Oh, we got 4. Well, if brother ate 2, how many do you have now? And like, this is stuff we do with them when they're little babies, you know, when we're teaching them ABCs, we're teaching them the language, we're teaching them all these things. And when we send them to school, that stuff stops, right? Like you help them with your homework, but at the same time, that's kind of all you have energy for. So now you have them all day. So now you're just like, well, let's take some pressure off us parents and understand that the world is education. She watched a lot of educational TV, of course, you know, like Bubble Guppies and and I know everybody doesn't have that privilege to do that. That's something else I also realized is like, you know, working parents, they both have to work 8 to 5. What do we do? Well, you know, if grandma's there, she can watch them and she's going to teach them how to do dishes. She's going to teach them how to sweep.
Grandma.
Yeah. You know, she's going to teach all these like life lessons. And, you know, I realized my daughter got to an age where she should probably have learned how to read. And it was really bugging me. I'm like, she doesn't know how to read. And it's really bugging me that she doesn't, because I'm still reading to her. And I'm like, what? Like, I failed her. I felt a lot of guilt, like I failed her. But then I realized I took her to a dance class at Phoenix Center for the Arts, and because I would take her to the park, you know, socializing skills, right? Take her to the park, you know. Of course, obviously can't do all this now, but I started taking her to a class, signing her up for one class at Phoenix Center for the Arts for dance class. And the instructor says, let's dance like an astronaut on the moon. What would that look like? And she's like, oh, it would look like this, and then spewed off the theory of gravity. Like, and I'm just like, wait, how did you learn that? Like, how do you know this stuff? And she was like 5. And the kids are so, they pick up on everything, obviously. And for me, it was, we didn't do a whole curriculum. Now she's 10. She's smart. She's super social. She has a lot of online friends, if you will, you know, friends of my friends that had kids. She socializes with them. She's very grown, of course, because she's around adults a lot. But, you know, she's learned quite a bit just on her own presence of where we are, and teaching her about money and budgeting, and teaching her about how cars move, and teaching her, you know, just these general practices. However, now we have decided to try to find an online school for her. So we're trying to enroll her. One that came up was ASU Prep Digital. So I just like, let's try that. I don't know. I mean, and that's the thing with like homeschooling. You can be flexible with that, you know. And just as a society in these unprecedented times, like, don't feel that your kids are going to be left behind because you have to run your business and teach them and help them do homework. Like, relax a little bit, and they're fine. They're so resilient, you know. Like, you guys will be okay, whatever you choose. Yeah, whatever you guys choose, whether it's the curriculum, whether it's just like, we're going to take a break for a year, it's fine. Like, I had to do second grade twice, by the way, like, because my grandma's like, you're kind of struggling, you're getting passing grades, but you're kind of struggling, let's repeat it. And I'm like, okay. And then I excelled. So it's like, if to repeat a grade later, then that's fine. Like, nobody says you have to do things in a specific time frame. And sorry, I just kind of ranted on all that.
No, I appreciate that perspective, because how long have you been homeschooling your daughter?
Forever. She's never been in any formal education at all. She's 10, sorry.
So like,
yeah, she'll
years?
be 11. She'll be 11 this next year, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, Amy is Akimel O'odham and Wasco from the Gila River Indian community, and just wanted to ask her to be a panelist so she could share her perspective about, you know, non-traditional schooling, and your story right there is exactly what, you know, I was hoping to hear, like, not knowing the content, but, you know, like, I love, Vicki, that you painted the context of different options. And
right.
Then I know you have Vicki, you know, you have a story as well with your children. And then, you know, Amy was able to share hers. And so we still have time for questions. So I'd like to open up the floor if you have questions for the panelists, or even just a question, like, let's throw it out. And if you can add anything to it to bring some clarity for that person, let's all pitch in the community discussion. So.
April?
Yes. Yeah, Tyler.
I have a question for Victoria. So you mentioned IEP earlier. I didn't understand what IEP means.
So it's an individual education plan for children with special needs. And special needs are any special education things. Usually a teacher or a doctor will have assigned that for your child. Does that clear that up?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Barbara?
Yes. Okay. Where's my mute? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
Barbara.
Okay. In the last 8 years, you know what? The IEP is not just for special ed kids. When I left, I'm a former teacher, elementary teacher, K to 8th grade. And they started when I left teaching, they were starting to have the teachers do individual plans for each of the kids, whether they were special ed or regular. But I was doing this what you call IEP long before that. I know where my kids were. And okay, I have a question for both of you guys, the presenters. Okay, there's testing at 3rd grade. Is that how you guys like homeschool or whatever you're doing? Do you guys have to do that to have the 3rd grade evaluation? Because at regular schools, if the students cannot pass what they've been taught in 3rd grade, they will be held back. But usually in the summertime, they take summer school and they can go ahead and pass on to the next grade. But that's one of my questions.
So Barbara, the IEPs that you were doing for your students, that's really cool that you were doing that, but legally the IEP is a little bit different. Okay. So yeah, so there's a difference between a legal IEP that the students need for services. So yes, teachers do individual education plans. My oldest is gifted, so there was like a 405 plan for him. And so they had to do like, and the teachers weren't required to do a plan for him. And then my daughter and my son, when they were in, they had like a plan for the child. And yeah, they did call it an individual plan, and they unfortunately called it an individual education plan for the child. And it did confuse with an IEP, which is for the special needs kids too. But the IEP is actually a legal thing for special needs kids. As for the AZ Merit and AIMS testing, no, homeschoolers do not have to take it. They can if they want to, but they do not have to, which is an excellent thing.
Good to know.
Yeah, my daughter actually, because she's 10 and we're trying to get her into this online school, she took her first standardized tests last week, actually. And she's actually surprisingly not that far behind her age group, which we were very happy and shocked. But I'm like, you know, they only measure you reading, writing, math, you know, things like that. So, but once she finished that test, she was kind of over it.
I think we're all over it after we take a test, right?
Right. She's like, are we doing that every day? I don't want to go to school for doing that every day. I'm like, no.
So are there any other questions we have from the group? I have like 5 more minutes for that panel.
Michelle, again, I put in the chat box healthynativeyouth.org. So I've noticed that they have Native curriculum, multiple different ones depending on age. That could be a resource for people that might be homeschooling.
Thank you.
So I have a question about, I'm all about like the first step. And so I think about, you know, how do I start? Like, do I start with the schedule? Like, what tips do you have for those of us who are just new to non-traditional schooling?
Do you want to head that one off, Amy, or do you want me to?
Well, I think this is actually a cool discussion because I'm like on one end of the spectrum, and then Vicki has a whole different experience, kind of like more formalized, it seems. I mean, not just based on pictures and stuff that you were sharing, Vicki. For me, like I said, I just integrate throughout the day. If I feel, and it's almost kind of like a, what is that one? Montessori school. They have freedom to move around. And it's kind of, for a while, I was kind of just like that. Like, hey, why don't you go do some dancing? Or, hey, here's, we'll cook later. Let me know when you're ready to cook. Or we'll, watch Bubble Guppies or whatever educational TV program at some time, whenever, fit it within your schedule rather than, sometimes we would have, and honestly, my therapist says it's really bad because we don't have a strict schedule. She's like, kids need, very, they need to know what's coming next. And my daughter's totally like that, but I just let her take the lead in those ways. I have things in my head about like, okay, what should we do today? Keep her active, keep her not glued behind the screen, keep her doing things, but ours is very loose. And so, I think it just becomes more stressful. And when you're stressed, the kids won't want to learn. That's our experience.
When we started homeschooling, we took it kind of like one thing at a time. So, first we worked on just doing math, and then we added in reading, and then we added in, Spanish, and then we added in writing. So we didn't just go, okay, we're going to do all of our schoolwork all together, because when you're trying to assess your child's learning styles, if you just go, okay, we're going to do everything that you used to do in your school all in one time, you're going to just end up with a complete disaster. And I think a lot of people try to emulate a school day at home, and it just becomes like this eruption of craziness. So we just started off really small, and then we added on to that. And my kids also love to do like YouTube videos, like how it's made, how it works, dirty jobs. And so that becomes like a whole nother discussion. And then we do Lego challenges. Like my oldest loves to create all of these Lego things. My dining room table is no longer a dining room table. It's his Lego empire, and so I've just given up on that. So goodbye dining room. And so we've kind of just done those kind of things where we make things into, or TV shows become a way of discovering. They have Nailed It, The Floor is Lava.
Yeah.
And so we kind of take those things, and then we make it into a way of discovering that into our home, especially now with COVID, because what else is there to do? So we kind of make it fun, and we do like the cooking and the exploring in life. And we're driving somewhere and the kids see a house being built. Well, we'll stop and we'll watch the house being built, and we'll talk about how a house is built, and then all of that stuff. And it becomes a huge discussion. And then I'll find a video on it. Oh, there's a dust devil in the sky. Oh, well, then that becomes a video on tornadoes. And yeah, sometimes I go on rabbit trails and it kind of goes a little berserk. So I have to stay scheduled too, because I think like Amy, I'll go really, really crazy. If I don't stay a little bit scheduled, I'll go totally nuts. Oh, I see from Lisa, you like to play Floor is Lava. Yeah, I love that.
So as we're wrapping up, can I ask, so Amy, what is one thing you know now that you wish you had known in the very beginning of this educational journey?
A lot of it, like, honestly, like I had said, it's more of understanding that taking the pressure off of yourself to keep your kid in this like box of education, because when you're homeschooling, you have the freedom of going far beyond that. Even, like, Victoria's kids are, 10 and younger, and how mean, for those in public education, when do they ever see about building a house, So it's just like taking it beyond, outside of the textbooks, and just, feeling at ease, and just like seeing the opportunities, because they'll teach you so much that like the, theory of gravity. I mean, I was taught that, I know, in science class, but I didn't remember it until she brought it up, and I'm like, wow, yeah, that's how it's done. So it's just like, letting her like go beyond just what's in the textbooks. it's just so much more enriching, I think, this method.
Sweet. Thank you. Same question to you, Vicki.
Not to be so hard on myself. I think when I got sick, I was pretty hard on myself that I couldn't keep going with what I was doing. And then I had to draw back and go, okay, reassess. Like, I think it's always reassessing what the goals are, to just figure out what the time of my life is and the time of my kid's life. And so, you know, that was part of why I'm doing this presentation is, you know, everyone has a certain time of their life where a certain educational style is going to work for them and their kids. And sometimes one thing is going to work for your child, and sometimes another learning style is going to work with another child. And my 3 kids don't learn the same, and my kids won't learn the same as your child or Amy's child. And so to put everyone in the same box is not going to work. And sometimes my needs and my kids' needs are going to be different. So when I got sick and I ended up in the hospital, my needs were that I had to take care of myself, and my kids had to go to public school. And then, you know, when COVID happened, then I had to take them home because everyone's needs were, well, we have to be at home. So, you know, that you kind of sometimes always have to assess needs differently. And then when I started homeschooling, I'm like, we're gonna homeschool, and, you know, but when I first had my kids, I was like, we're gonna public school. And I think, you know, sometimes you just kind of set yourself into this box and you're like, this is what we're always going to do. And, you know, you set yourself up for failure if you just look in that box and say, this is what we're going to do. You kind of have to go, well, this is working for now, but we might have to change course.
And that's a great philosophy for life. So
yes.
There's something else too, real quick, is that you have to understand that your children, you love them to death. You're their mother, you're their parent. You're not always meant to be their teacher. Because we tried sometimes sitting down and like teaching her things, and she's just like, she wasn't having it. And I'm like, we can't teach her. So we reached out to friends. Like I reached out to Jerry's daughter, Gavi, who at the time didn't have a lot to do. And so she would call my daughter and give her reading lessons. You know, I'd call my friend Chandra, who's a great artist, and she would do her, you know, art lessons just virtually. Like, and this is before COVID. So reach out to other people and tap into those resources, you know, your friends, your support system. That's something else, is because everybody's experience and their knowledge is so different. And that's a big thing of, you know, having your kids learn not from you. So don't be so hard if they're like, I don't want to learn from mom. And you're like, oh, I'm not gonna, she's not learning. And yeah, it's just, sometimes you have to make that realization that you are not meant to be their teacher. And that's fine in that way, in that academic way, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, thank you both for sharing your experiences. I know I could feel my shoulders go a little bit down as, you know, I'm thinking about the upcoming school year with all the uncertainty. And I feel that information is empowerment. And so I feel that all of us are empowered a little more when it comes to, you know, leading our families in this educational endeavor. So 2 things, just want to remind you that for Eat, Learn, and Grow, that we are now only the 3rd Fridays of every month. So we'll be coming back on August 21st, and topic will be coming up, but it'll stay, you know, still indigenous in nature, and probably something that I want to know about, because I wanted to know more about like non-traditional education. And so I just reached out, and thank you ladies for accepting that. And also want to give a plug for Vicki. If you have more questions, Vicki's actually doing another Zoom presentation, a longer one, where she's going to go more in depth at 7:30 tonight. Can you give them information how they can know more, like how would they register or how would they be able to participate?
Sure. If they go on my Facebook page, it's if you just look at www.facebook.com/surpriseazmom, or you could just look up Surprise AZ Mom. There will be links to the webinar for tonight at 7:30. And it will also be live streamed on Facebook too, because my husband's got that figured out, like you guys had it figured out, because he's going to be my techie tonight, figuring it all out. We did a dry run last night. And so, yeah, it'll be much more in depth. I kind of like zoomed through it all. And so we'll have, I think I have about 60 people already signed up. So we're going to have a lot of people asking a lot of questions, and it will have more stuff about homeschooling and a ton of stuff. So thank you. Thank you for plugging that. I'm just trying to help out other people because I know it's a crazy time. So thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. And you know, that's just so true. You know, it takes a village, right? Because all of us got our little ones' best interests at heart. And so thank you for all of you by being here. You know, you're part of the village, you're part of the circle, and you know, we're all here to help our kids rise and to be support to each other during this time. And with that, you all enjoy your Friday, and I will talk with y'all later. If you missed anything, we'll be posting this on Tinhorn's YouTube channel, and we were also streaming Facebook Live. So if anyone needs this information, you can go to those sources. So have a good afternoon.